What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Montana Method podcast one more time. As always, your host, Nelson Rodriguez Jr., author, creator, Montana Method. Today, another special guest, the prodigal son returns, Mr. Don Cabby himself.
What's up, big dog?
What's
Thanks for having me back on, dude.
Of course. You're one of the few people that have been on twice.
Really?
So it's a very short list.
Wow, that's like some Joe Rogan stuff right there.
Bro, those people who get on Joe Rogan and then 6 months later they're on again, it's like, dude, that's
It's great. It means they built a friendship.
yeah,
you know?
for sure.
If you want to know how to get on podcasts, you got to build a friendship with people, and then they have you back on. That's what happens.
All right. Well, that's one of many secrets that will be revealed today about podcasting and social media. So stay tuned. Elijah, kick the intro.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. I promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags.
Alrighty, my friend.
Yeah.
It's official. The show has started.
Yeah. It's been a while.
It's been a while, bro.
Not since I've seen you. I saw you. I literally saw you
we see
yesterday,
each other all the time.
but
Yeah. But yeah, you were on last August, bro. That feels like a lifetime ago.
It does, man.
Things were very different a year ago for me.
For
both of us.
A lot of things have changed in 1 year, so I'm excited to dive into all of
Yeah.
that. And my opinions on social media have changed drastically since then, because I've gotten tied into a lot of different really cool people in social media. I've done a lot of podcast booking for some of our friends and made some really good friends along the way, all in that year, bro. It's been probably the busiest year of my life, I would say. Same for you, right?
I would argue the same. Yeah, I've went from being from kind of I was on. You were the beginning, middle of season 3.
Ooh.
I'm on season 5, so I've literally recorded double the amount of episodes from when you met me, maybe a little less actually. So it might be 2.5.
Season
something.
3 and season 5 are always the best seasons.
Really?
Yeah, I feel
That's like a TV series.
No,
thing?
in TV, yeah, like season 3 and season 5 of 24 with Kiefer Sutherland. Do you remember that show?
Bro, that's
The anti-terrorism show.
Legendary.
Season 3,
Legendary.
season 3, I believe, was the one with the coronavirus, like it was the deadly virus in the hotel, and season 5 was the one where President Logan was the bad guy. It opened up with President Palmer getting shot at, the assassination attempt, and then it ended up being him as the best. That was the best season 5 of 24.
Bro, you know that I have a. You can't prove this, obviously, but this is. I'm sticking to this, and I don't care if you think I'm wrong. The Sopranos started the wave of the TV series for real, because before that it was like Seinfeld and General Hospital and for Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which those shows are great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It wasn't The Sopranos. It wasn't 24. It wasn't Prison Break. It wasn't. That wave started after Sopranos. Sopranos started that TV series wave.
Yeah, and 24 had the best time slot ever. It was on Fox at 6 p.m. It was like right after the news or right after like the major football
prime
games that
time.
like came on prime time. And that was like the best show. And I'm sure they had like CIA consultants and NSA consultants on that, because everything was right pretty
Accurate,
much.
yeah.
Everything was accurate. Even the later season, and I talk about this with my dad, because my dad and I talk about this stuff all the time. But one of the later seasons, his father is revealed as the guy who puts him away in the Chinese prison because he gets tortured in this Chinese prison. And then his dad is the one that puts him away, and you find out that his dad is like a high level government asset colluding with China.
That's wild.
And it was the whole season was about how his dad was like, China's the next big thing. I'm trying to make my moves to get over there. He finds out that his dad speaks Mandarin. It was a wild season, but that show was like right on point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That era. What year was that? That was like
07. It was like 07, 08, 09, and then maybe 2011.
I was in high school when that TV show was like popping.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of was Sons of Anarchy on around that time too?
I think the same time.
Man, that era of TV was pretty good.
It was the best.
It had Sons of Anarchy, 24, Prison Break. There was like 10 TV shows all at once that were really good.
Yeah, and the movies were really good at that time too. Right before the writers' strike, really, that really deflated all of Hollywood. All the writers left. And
Yeah.
now it seems like all of our movies are written with like AI bots or something. except for the very exciting news of Robert Downey Jr. coming as Doctor Doom. I'm excited for that, bro. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty wild.
Let's see if the Marvel Universe can recover, because I haven't been a fan of the stuff that they've come out with lately.
Yeah,
Like I've stopped after. I want to say after Homecoming, after that last Spider-Man movie, I haven't really tuned in because it's been pretty disappointing.
The resurgence of the original values, the Americana badass values that brought Marvel to where it was with like Iron Man and Captain America and Hulk.
Yeah.
That resurgence is coming now because Disney and all of these, I'm just going to say it, libtard executives over there, they really took the storylines of everything. They feminized it. They started making all the main characters feminine, and then they were going to this LGBTQ wave of all the extra characters were all like, in the closet or whatever, and now it's shifting back, and Kevin Feige and all these guys, did you hear the story that Robert Downey Jr. had a private meeting with, who's the CEO of Disney? Yeah,
Bob Iger?
Bob Iger. He had a meeting with Bob Iger related to the parks. Like they were going to put in all these Iron Man rides in the parks, and that meeting was all centered around him coming. That's where he was pitched to come back as Doctor Doom. And so Marvel's having to basically revamp everything, and their one guy that made them, they need to bring him back, which is Robert Downey.
But is it going to be canon? Like, isn't it going to be weird that the same face that was Iron Man is now going to be Doctor Doom in the Marvel universe?
I guess this is where I reveal that I'm a bigger nerd than anybody out there on social media when it comes to this stuff. But I will say I know a little bit about this. I know a little bit about Marvel.
A little bit
about it. They're having to do this and work it in. Some of it's canon in the comic books. There's different storylines. Like one of them is interesting where Doctor Doom and Robert Downey Jr., like Iron Man and Doctor Doom are roommates in college instead of Reed Richards.
That is really cool.
And they're roommates in college, and basically Von Doom is upset because he's from Latvia. He does this like body swap. Like what's his name from Dragon Ball Z? He does the Ginyu body swap thing. And he takes on the persona of Tony Stark.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's like one of the options, and that storyline's super cool. But I think what they're gonna do is they're gonna tap into the multiverse bullshit.
I mean, they've been hitting that button nonstop lately. Like
multiverse. If you ever have a problem in your company, just hit the multiverse button. And then just just swap everybody out, and then make it an alternate storyline, and then you're fine.
I get attacked because I'm a comic book fan, and I'm a Batman guy, as you know.
Yeah, and big Batman guy.
It pisses me off, the multiverse stuff, because it's lazy writing, bro. Like, you can just erase whatever's happened, and all of a sudden you can start whatever storyline you want. To me, it's just lazy writing, bro. It's you not trying to sit there and really figure out a good way to connect the dots. So you're just like, wipe the slate clean, multiverse button.
Well, you know what stemmed all that lazy writing? It was the shift that Hollywood realized, and this same thing happened with money grabs and like the NBA when LeBron James was making excuses for China and all the weird shit they were pulling in Hong Kong.
John Cena was apologizing in Mandarin and all that.
Yeah, so this shift is because the market's bigger in China, so they can take their Hollywood movies and put it over there and make way more money.
Yeah,
and
even though they're anti-woke, but hey,
But the writing got dumbed down because it's easier to translate dumbed down writing for the Chinese to understand than have these complex, situations and linguistics that really only English can provide. Because English, I don't know if you know this, English is the only language that can translate almost everything from the ancient languages. English is the only language that is so developed. Like if you think of some of the languages that you'll find in Africa or, like those languages are not built to have all of Latin and all of the Greek writing into it, but English is designed that way.
Interesting.
It has the most variables of shifts, and you can get the most linguistic with English.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Chinese, Chinese language, it's got its own limitations with the figures and all of that. I mean, if you ever even try to listen to something in Chinese, you're just like, what is this thing? What is this? This isn't language. This is like
Red Dead Redemption 2, the video game?
Yeah.
I must have beat that game like 6 times. The story is so good. So good, bro. I enjoyed it so much. I'm a story guy. Like, whenever something has a good story, Scarface, you know what I mean? That's why I can watch this film 80 times, because the story is just so good.
Yeah,
you know what
I mean? Really love this movie.
Dude, this movie changed my life. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
From being some kid that had these dreams of doing some big stuff, but didn't really understand any of that or like how to do things in life, how to accomplish goals. I was 12. I was a 12-year-old kid that had my parents had just divorced. We were flat broke, you know, like not really having a father figure at the time. My dad wasn't really in the picture. He was when he felt like it, and when he. But that's a long story. My cousin moves in with us. I wrote this in the intro of the book. My cousin, who's my mom's godson. In Cubans, we always call somebody a cousin when they're not blood related, but they're family. You know, he's not really
It's
my
like
cousin.
Italian. It's the same thing as Italian.
Right. So my cousin moves in with us to because my mom is trying to keep him out of trouble. He's on probation. He's like one strike away from going to prison. So he moves in with us, and the guy's like obsessed with the gangster flicks because he's a little thug. You know what I mean? So, bro, he'd play Scarface every day. I'm not kidding. We'd have this DVD player back when if you had a DVD player, it was like woof, you know?
Yeah.
So he'd have this white DVD that didn't even have the actual Scarface logo on it. It was like a copy, and he'd play it every day, bro. And I just watched it and watched it and watched it. My parrot's name was Yayo.
Wow.
Like my parrot was like chi 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 Yayo. That's why we named him Yayo, because he knew the line so well.
Really? Wow.
And to see at the time I knew it was just a movie, but to see a Cuban up there and like going out there, grabbing the world by the balls, taking what he wanted, it was inspiring, bro. It was inspiring. Most people were like, "Oh my God, why are you so inspired by a drug dealer, a murderer?" I understand that I shouldn't deal drugs and murder people. That's not what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that guy had a vision for what he wanted in his fucking life, and he went out there and he got it, bro.
Yeah.
And he did it like that. Like he said, forget the limitations of the world. Forget what you're telling me is possible and not possible. This is what I want, and I'm gonna get it. Period. There's nothing that's gonna stop me from getting this.
Yeah, that movie for me was Goodfellas.
Bro, another classic.
Yeah.
Just that story of just, bro, it's nuts.
That movie for me was Goodfellas, and I didn't know much about, like, I grew up around a lot of Italian people in Boca. All my friends' families were Italian. Recently, I realized that all my friends' family, they're still together. Like, all the parents are still together.
That's cool, man.
I grew up in a really conservative place. Boca Raton's like one of the nicest places in the U.S. right now. The real estate is nuts. My boy Jeff Cregan, he sells real estate in Boca Raton. If you ever need a realtor, that's your guy, Jeff Cregan, the Cregan team. I shoot his content a lot. But, you know, we grew up on Italian culture, 100%. All my mom's friends were aunt this and uncle that. I thought they were all my aunts and uncles. I thought my family was like 10 times bigger than it was. Right. I was like, wait a second, this isn't my aunt. This is Aunt Terry. Like, what do you mean? We're not related? And that movie for me was Goodfellas. And I watched that movie probably 25 times, maybe upwards of 25 times, because I got this job with my buddy Joey that I met out singing karaoke. And this is like one of those business stories. It's just the funniest thing ever. He like brings me out to his house in West Boca, and he's like, "Yo, we're gonna make calls." And I'm like, "Calls for what?" He's like, "Have you ever made calls before?" And I'm like, "No, not really." And this is pre-COVID, when we were just all like goofing off and doing jobs left and right that didn't make any sense. And I was making these calls for like this like telemarketing thing, and we were calling like all these different types of people, and we would sit there and just watch Goodfellas as we made the calls, like waiting for the dialer to come through and watching it over here. And he really liked to smoke weed. And we were just chilling there, just like fucking, you know, smoking, but watching Goodfellas. It was a funny time, but that movie is just like ridiculous, bro. That movie is just, wow. All the performances.
That's
Joe
up there.
Pesci's like my favorite guy ever. He's one of my favorite actors, like top 10 actors.
You want to know one of my favorite scenes in that movie? When his chick got hit by the other dude.
Yeah.
When they were young, and he wasn't even like, he was associated with the mob already, but he wasn't like in his prime. Mm-hmm. He was still a kid, and his chick calls him. And he gets to her house. He's like, "Yo, you good? Yeah, all right, cool." So, like, picks her up from the phone booth and all that stuff. And then he sees the guy with his two boys across the street, and he just starts walking up to him. And the guy's like, "What are you good at?" And then they would just, boom, whack and beats the fuck out of that guy in front of his two boys.
Yeah,
bro. I was just like, man. That's some gangster shit.
That movie is all based around Joe Pesci. If you really dive in and think about the storyline, it's all based around Joe Pesci's inability to control his emotions.
100%.
So, like, he's at the top. He makes it. He's a made man. He walks into the room. They take care of him because he had this, like,
Inability
moment
to
where he
control
couldn't
himself.
control.
Yep.
He just couldn't control himself, and I think
Yep.
that's such a great lesson to men because we do have these opportunities where we can just
You can argue that Scarface is the same exact thing.
just control your emotions, man. Try to be as stoic as you possibly can, and
Mm.
you can get into these positions of power and blow it because you just get too over emotional. And I get that.
100%.
That's a huge learning lesson for me. But I think really we're in a resurgence of Italian culture, conservative values in the United States, and we need to bring this back. It needs to be staple in how we think, our media, what we do, because we're dealing with a lot of nonsense right now.
Bro,
We're dealing with a lot of bullshit and a lot of nonsense
you
that
can
needs to be
see it.
taken care of.
You can see it in what we enjoy and what becomes popular. For instance, another great example. I have this poster in my room. Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
Stranger Things is what? The 80s, Americana,
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan, anti-communist ideals, bro, wholesome like kid stuff, video games, arcades. So all the stuff that really makes America, made America America, it's being called back to us because this stupid generational thing where people wanted to rebel against what was traditional or like our values. It's starting to get realized that was just a bunch of nonsense, you know. And now
a lot of that wouldn't have happened if the mob and if the Italians weren't taken out of control of the systems that were involved at the time, because at the time they owned the judges, they owned the politics. And I know a lot of guys, they probably don't fully advocate for how it was back then, and there was a lot of nonsense that went on too on that side. But like simple things like the mob, this is well known that the mob would not touch sex trafficking or drug trade. If you try to bring that to a top guy, he'd be like, absolutely not. We're not doing that. We can do everything else. We can import the shoes and sell them, and the Fed can, whatever. But that conservative ideology that was built into the culture of not touching those things, when they got switched out ideologically and those guys were no longer in control, whenever you have a power vacuum, something enters in.
of course.
And what entered in was the government. What entered in was all of these national societies that international communes or societies that came into that, and they started picking and choosing what we watch. They start picking and choosing what's on our TV. They start picking and choosing what women think. I think that's like the biggest thing is like in the past 10 years, okay? In the past 10 years, the methodology and the mindset of men has stayed roughly similar. I think it's changed with Andrew Tate and some social media influence, like more hustle culture. But the mindset of women, oh my gosh, dude, what is going on? What is going on? I don't understand it. And I know girls in Vegas and LA have been doing a lot of traveling with the LinkMe stuff, and I've been meeting a lot of really, really cool like women all over the country. And the ones in LA and the ones in Vegas, they have like this very cool mindset of how like culture works and how media works, and they've been in it so much, they've been exposed to it, like they've been at Playboy shoots, they've been at all the weird parties in LA, that they're kind of done with it. But then you have this like immigration of the culture into like the Florida climate, the Miami climate, and Miami thinks that women in Miami and guys in Miami, we think that we have this like media thing figured out, but we're just at the beginning of it. And so all of the girls in Miami, I feel like they want to like get into this structure or this new media wave of, OnlyFans and getting online and doing everything that they're doing online, TikTok, but they don't understand where that goes. Like they don't understand the ending point to where that gets you. What that does is that gets you in a room with a casting agent who's trying to take advantage of you, and there's nobody else there. I have so many model girlfriends. They tell me that they go, like they've been in these rooms where they get brought in and it's like 20 guys and they're telling them what to do, and they're in like a photo shoot or a model shoot, and this is their first opportunity to be in a music video. And then they get there and they're like, oh my God, like I didn't know it was going to be like this. The girls in LA, the girls in Vegas, they've been there, done that. They know what it's like. So that conservative wave, that bringing back traditional culture, I feel like it's coming again. And I think that's where you see this huge support for Trump and his Americana ideals and his conservative ideals. And I love it, man. I love this new wave. And I know that we're going to be a big part of that, you and me. I know that we are in media. We're going to do a lot of really good things for a lot of people, and we're just going to share what we think. and they're good ideas, and they're good for everybody. In my opinion, they're good for everybody.
The other day in my last podcast episode, I actually talked about how things have calmed down. They're not cancel culture isn't as relevant anymore, and we're actually able to say a lot more online than we were a few years ago. However, you still have that like trigger guard of the person that's still avoiding saying certain things because they're still scared of getting deplatformed, missing out on money, X consequences, this and that. Me personally, I've made the decision that, I mean, I don't really talk about politics as much, but I talk a lot about culture. So, you know, it is what it is. I believe that every individual should speak their mind, you know, regardless of whether I agree with you or not. And there's plenty of stuff online that I don't agree with. But at the end of the day, that's what the free world is, you know? And if you don't stand for freedom, what do you really stand for? You know, like this whole thing about, you know, oh no, these social media companies have to be responsible. Responsible for what? Upholding the law, okay, as long as it's legal. But if someone's speaking their mind and they're not hurting anybody and they're not threatening anybody with violence, you know, what are they responsible? What are you saying? So you're saying you should censor what people are saying? Like it's ridiculous, bro. It's just.
I mean, I learned a lot of that kind of speaking your mind and talking about conservatism and your thoughts from Pat and being around him for so long. And I've talked about this story on podcast before, but maybe I'll dive a little bit deeper into it. I was directly around Patrick for 2 years, pretty much, maybe a year and a half. We had a meeting every Monday, about an hour and a half, and he really fed into me. And a lot of the conversations were just me and him. The other people in the room were trying to ask him sales questions. I was always trying to ask him, like, what's your mindset? Like, what do you think about? I was trying to pull out different things in media too. Like, where does he want to go with it? You know, how do you think about doing a show with this guy or that guy? And a lot of that vision for where America needs to go and speaking up, like speaking your own word. Those guys are pioneers of doing that. And unless we have more real guys that want the best for women, that want the best relationships, that want the best money in their bank account, speaking up and telling people what they think, there's not going to be a good layer of what young people can agree to and what they can understand. I
think the same.
And I think that we've had this really weird wave in the past couple of years with, like, as cool as Tate is, and as much as I would like to meet him and all that stuff, like, there's something a little fishy there, in my opinion. Like, with the career history and the background of what he went through.
I don't agree with a lot of what the Red Pill has to say.
I don't agree with what they have to say, man. It's it's
I agree with some of it, but some of it I think is just being over the top and, you know, fresh and fit, going for clicks, which is
clicks
cool.
and views.
Which is cool. I don't knock the hustle. First off, what they've done is great. Like, they've built a fucking media empire.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just a lot of it is for clicks and for shows, and as long as you can differentiate that, it's okay. The only thing I hate is how now everybody thinks that represents all of Miami, which it definitely does not, as you know.
And that it represents all men, that we all think
exactly.
that way. That we all want to hang out and do video shoots with, like, OF girls and kind of berate them and go after them for, like,
pretty much.
You know how lowbrow it is? Like, you know how easy it would be to get 10 girls in this room and just go at them for things that they think and where their mindset is at. I don't have any time for that. I want to talk to guys. I want to talk to people about real stuff, about media, about where the country's going. It's just you don't see Pat doing that.
Right.
You see Adam doing it, but you don't see Pat doing it, and that's the difference. Is in that quality of the highbrow versus lowbrow content.
Agreed.
And a lot of stuff has come out of that movement. Also, it's basically for clickbait to get people into some funnel to buy a course. Like, if you really think about everything that Andrew Tate's done, all of the engagement, all of the interactions that he's done on Pierce Morgan, I mean, it all leads in the back end to a funnel. I think this is, like, going down.
Yeah.
It all leads to a back end of a funnel to join the real world, which is essentially like an e-commerce digital platform scam, in my opinion. You know, you get involved with it, and some of these young kids are learning a lot about digital marketing, but to tell them that they need to quit their job, there's no 9 to 5, you don't need to get a degree, you know, you don't need to do anything that's going to really build up your reputation. Just join the real world and, like, do digital e-marketing of, you know, Andrew Tate's courses and make $2,500 like a week or whatever. It's not a way to actually build your career.
Agreed.
It's just digital marketing nonsense. I mean, if you really want to learn how to do digital marketing, look at Alex Hormozy's courses, bro. If you want to learn how to do marketing,
what he's doing with school is great.
Go to Hormozy, open up a school account. So, And they all learn off each other, and they all put their own little product out there. But at the end of the day, in business online, it's like, what is at the end of your funnel? And I've gotten into a lot of this with LinkMe, man. Like, LinkMe's been the coolest ride. The past year, I after we last spoke, I became a partner in the company, and we're doing all this really innovative work in the link and bio industry, which is the industry created by Mark Zuckerberg when he allowed there to be a little link in your Instagram and your other social medias. And I've seen so many brands, and I've seen what they're doing online. And now I have a really good gauge as to how your brand needs to look. What sort of website do you need? You need a LinkMe. You need a link in bio, 100%. And if anybody wants one, you watch this part and you want to get in touch with me, just hit up Nelson or hit up me, and I can make you one for absolutely freaking free. It's sick. This actually is free. But
it is. I have one. I met the LinkMe guys right around the time I met Don, and it's sick. You compare that to Linktree, and it's absolute ridiculous.
Yeah, completely different level.
No,
and I've talked to through that journey. I've met with all these different brands and interesting people that have their own companies, fighters. We've got like 40% of the UFC on the platform. So we're talking to fighter management companies and Sugar Sean, who we've done a lot of. He has a LinkMe, and he's done a lot of marketing. Just through using it, it's like marketing for us, which is so cool. And it's led to this huge algorithmic growth because when they market it and they put it in their Instagram and they do something big and people engage, they get put into their LinkMe, and then you see all their companies, all their affiliates, where they have these affiliate percentage codes. Like, there are people out there making a shit ton of money with just a big Instagram brand, and then they have a good little affiliate link in there. And that's what kind of changed my mind about the real world. It's like, you have one opportunity through your brand and who you are to share a product. It's best if that product is your product, not some other guy's product.
Right.
Because all you're doing is building up his brand and building up his money in his bank account.
Agreed.
You need to get your own thing that you put in your LinkMe, you market, you share, you go out on the streets, you talk to people, you shake their hand, and you get them involved in your product. And you want to make sure that your product is actually of value, dude. There's so many people out there that are delivering products and getting people into social media, into their funnel, and they're not delivering on their promises. Bro. They're not doing it. I've seen it time and time again.
The Furus.
Yeah, and now I watch these guys on social media, dude. I just can't even do it. I can't watch these reels anymore, bro.
It's pretty nauseating. It's basically everybody saying the same shit. It gets pretty retarded. Anyway, guys, we're gonna hear from our first sponsor. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, the familiar voice of your host, Nelson Rodriguez Jr., taking a quick detour to talk to you about the best jewelry shop on the internet, Gus Villa Jewelry. Let's be honest here, guys. Jewelers in Miami are super shady sometimes. I've even been ripped off once or twice by one of these self-proclaimed alchemists that ended up being these weirdos who sell you a bunch of stuff that make your neck and your fingers turn black. Let me tell you, after I met my boy, Gus Villa, he elevated my bling game. The Gus Villa team, these guys are more than just jewelers. These guys are magicians, turning metal and stone into your next head turner. Trust me, these pieces shine so much you can see them from outer space. Head over to GusVillaJewelry.com, and because you're a Monty, that's right, part of the Montana Method crew, you can use the promo code Montana to snatch 5% off your order. You don't just get hooked up with some shine, you get to have some dough in your pocket. Double whammy. So guys, what are you waiting for? Elevate your jewelry game. Show the world what you got. You got some style, you got some bling, you're all blinged up. Come on back after you do that. We've got more Montana Method Madness waiting for you. Now back to the podcast. Yeah, that's my boy Gus Villa. He's actually been on the podcast. I've been on his too. But he's your neighbor. He's like literally around the corner from you, maybe 2 blocks away from you.
That's a nice chain.
I
like that chain.
Gotta take you to his shop one of these days so you can.
Yeah, we got to get some chains.
People.
So next podcast we run on, we got to have one. I have this one, but that one looks like looks a lot fatter than this chain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like big.
He's actually he's a jeweler, but his secret to success is YouTube. He's a very successful YouTuber. He's got like 150,000 subs.
Yeah.
He's doing pretty well. Yeah.
That's the difference between having a digital marketing product where all these gurus are forcing people into a lot of times just to push their own stuff.
Yeah.
And I've seen it a lot with Andy. He's got a big team. They all push his stuff. They push his digital marketing stuff. They push his courses. They push his sales trainings, and it's good. It gets people off the couch. It gets them fit. He has them take their shirt off. I'm not taking my shirt off today. Sorry, Andy. But, it really does a lot for people. But at the end of the day, at the end of the funnel that we're talking about, the more tangible your product can be, the better.
Right.
So like with that, right? He's got all this marketing. He's got a YouTube channel. He's got a brick and mortar shop. Brick and mortar is necessary to grow a product like that.
Right.
Like if you want to sell, I love this watch. It's just a Casio. But if you want to sell Casios, you can do it online, or you can have a brick and mortar where you sell it and you churn it. You do some YouTube videos,
Or you could do both. Yeah.
or you could do both. And if a tangible product is really best, and that's what I would love to encourage, like the next generation to get into.
Right.
Less thinking about drop shipping and more about actually bringing a value or an art, like what he's doing with the chains and what he's doing with jewelry. Like that's a great end of a funnel.
Yeah.
You meet people anywhere, you talk to them about you, they like you, they do business with you, and now they come buy a chain with you. I'm probably going to go in there. The marketing worked. I see it during the ad. I'm like, oh, I like that chain. I'm going to go buy it. It's very simple.
Yep.
If you like what I have, come and buy it. That's it.
There you go.
Don't buy it online from Bezos. Come and buy it from me.
You know what I miss about business that most people are it's all the ancillary tricks, right? Like, oh, kind of like on social media, hashtags and this and that and what time you post. How about having good content, bro? How about just putting something out that's good?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the same in business. Just have a product that's good, that's worth something, that people are attracted to, that people are willing to spend their money on. Yeah, Elon Musk is a great example, right?
This guy's got one of the best products in the market.
Tesla. I mean, people love it. You know?
I have one. I'm not afraid to say it. I have one. The technology in the car, when I get behind the technology of another car, it just sucks. Like I'm like, wait, I have to press the brake pedal every time I want to brake, and I don't have my LED screen to watch a movie on when I'm chilling at a Wawa
screen,
and I'm just plugging in my car. Like I just love this thing. And another blatant example of somebody who has a huge social media brand. He even bought a social media platform, for God's sake, okay? He bought X, and this is all advertising just to get to his main things, which is SpaceX and Tesla. Tesla is a consumer economy product that everybody can buy. The financing is really good on these cars too. You can get in it. You can feel like you got a really nice ride with the best technology. You feel like a spaceman in it. When you back up, it makes that little noise. But that's the product at the end of his funnel. So start thinking back to like the old days when we had uncles and grandfathers. Like my great uncle worked for NASA, right? He was an engineer, right? He was an engineer, and there are chemists, there are biologists that go and they make a product. They make a really solid. You ever hear about the industry with like the taste tester guys? Like they make the formulators. Have you ever heard about that industry where they just make like cherry flavor?
Yep.
And then they have the license and the patent to this particular molecule of cherry flavor.
Yep.
And then Coke comes in and adds that cherry flavor. This thing keeps going down.
Tighten that. Yeah, that big. There you go.
This one?
Yep.
But could you imagine making residual income not off of Andrew Tate's course, but on cherry flavor?
Cherry flavor.
Like go to college, figure out if you like chemistry, and there's a lot of money in chemistry. I didn't have a single business. We need more business people in university, like real business people.
Agreed.
Because if I had a single guy that told me, hey, all this stuff that you're doing in organic chemistry, where you have like this Indian professor who's like, you need to do the chemical balance, and if I knew that I could do that chemical balance in a different way and make a cherry flavor and make like $20 million a year on passive income because I came up with the formula, I would have been in lab like trying to figure that shit out every day. But they don't tell you what's the end of the road for a biologist or a chemist or law. Like what's the end of the road? At the end of the day, you're just a business person. If you really want to make money, you got to be an entrepreneur. So, Elon knew that. I think inherently he knew that if he got into becoming this amazing engineer and technologist and software guy, there was a product at the end of the day that he was going to be able to sell to everybody in the world. And we don't talk about that. We don't talk about actually learning concrete skills. Like, they talk about in these courses, they're like, learn the skills, learn the soft skills. You can learn how to talk to people. You could learn that working at a gym at the front desk.
True.
You don't need a digital course for that. But to learn how to be an engineer, you need to go to like Harvard. You need to go to these places, work hard in school. Don't goof off and smoke weed and do all this dumb shit that we all did in high school.
Yeah.
Like focus on the work, but nobody tells you what is the end road of, unless you have an entrepreneur father or you have an original rich dad that tells you focus in school and get good grades so you can go to college, to then focus on school and get good grades, to then get a job at one of the big companies and learn to be an engineer, then you're going to make the real fucking money. But they don't tell you that. Nobody tells you that. You have some English literature teacher who's like high in the middle of class, or she's like an alcoholic, and she's telling you how you didn't write your essay right. Get the fuck out of here.
No, and then the hilarious thing is smartphones came into play, and no one even knows how to spell anything because it autocorrects everything. You know, it became a useless class.
Well, yeah, everything. I mean, I think there's something to be said about my mom actually just got her master's in English literature, and it took her 6 years. And my dad and I were like, Ma, like, what are you doing? You're going back to school for a master's? Like, we love you, but what are you doing? And I'm so happy for her. I'm so proud of her that she stuck through it, because just the grit of being in those classes and getting that, getting that master's is a lot. And I'm proud of her. But even there, like, start becoming a book writer. I got a buddy, Greg. He makes like 40 grand off a consultancy fee to write you a international bestseller. Like he was the co-writer in your next 5 moves. And this guy makes a ton of money being a writer, but nobody tells you. He probably did have people tell him at those big universities, like when you go to an Ivy League, there are people that are there that are so wealthy and they come from such good families that you get that business info just from your friends. But when you're screwing off and you're going to community college, bro, I don't think there's any value to going to a community college. And I think that whole thing is a scam, just like a digital e-commerce funnel scam.
Most people, yeah, but the majority of people go to college because they're told to go to college, not because they have a dream or, like, if it's your dream to become a doctor, if it's your dream to become an engineer, if it's your dream to become a lawyer, by all means, you know what I mean? Do it. But if you're becoming a doctor, or if you're getting a literature degree, or if you're getting a social sciences degree because you literally don't even know why you went to college, you were told to go to college, you didn't even want to go to college, let's get this straight. When you have a degree in disciplinary studies, you didn't know what you wanted.
Yeah.
So you ended up studying everything. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't get it, man. That's never been my thing. Once I realized that it was possible to open a business, start a trade, learn real skills, and that the things I wanted to do with my life were not available in college, or I was going to be taught by someone who knew nothing about it, that was pretending to know something about it, who had no real world experience that can be transferred into me, like that can pass on real wisdom. That's why apprentices were such a big thing back in the day. When you're talking about medieval times and all that kind of stuff, because it was the only way you could learn a trade. You had to go and work with somebody who was actually doing what you wanted to do in order to learn from them. If you wanted to be a swordsmith, you had to sit there and go find, John from Livingston, and go to Livingston, this little town in the middle of nowhere where the legendary swordsmith lived. And you had to live with him and work with him for 15, 20 years until he died. And then you would take over his blacksmith business and you would become the next guy in line. Why? Because you learned from the legend that made all these swords for all these knights, and now you became the guy.
And then this is funny, it's a really funny topic, like medieval entrepreneurship, right? And then you like do business development in the town square, and the king's walking by one day with his court jester,
right?
And you make a joke to the court jester, and he looks at you and he says, what are you making? You making swords? That's kind of cool. And then he leans over and he tells the king, he's like, yo, this guy just made this dope sword. It's called Excalibur.
There you go.
I think you should buy it. I think you should buy this guy's sword, because he's out here, he's hustling. He's like, he made the best sword awesome. Ever made. But that's a business lesson too. Like, get really good at making something.
Yeah,
like,
man.
Like all these guys that make construction industry. I got a buddy. He's like a superintendent of one of the big construction firms in Mexico. Guy makes like $300K a year. And he's like kind of chilling right now. He's like looking for the next thing to do. And it's just because his family was in construction. His dad told him, go into construction. There's a lot of money in this. He kind of taught him the ropes. And this is why we need more dads in America actually teaching their sons, principles of business. And the dads need to step up. You need to start telling your daughter and your son, like, the right shit.
Right.
And I think as dads get more informed off of social media like YouTube as to what's actually going on out there, as some dad stumbles upon this podcast and hears about what's actually going on in college, that they're basically just all these they're basically drug and alcohol parties at every one of these big institutions, unless you're going to an Ivy League. There's still some of that, but you're getting like the right information from an Ivy League school. University really started in Europe as a way for very well-off individuals to come together to talk about what the country or what business needs to do, what science needs to do.
Right.
And that's how it started. Very high-level guys, and I don't think there was many women back in that day, but you know, very high-level people that actually had these deep conversations in commune with each other. They talk to each other. College is a joke in comparison to what it used
100%.
to be, and university.
100%.
It just,
What
it's
it
crazy.
originally stood for, right? Guys, we're going to hear a word from our second sponsor. We're going to come right back. Alrighty, guys, taking a quick break from the podcast to bring you a word from our sponsor, Christian J. DePaz. Appreciate him for coming through. He offers a phenomenal service. Guys, you know I'm a big promoter of entrepreneurship, owning a company, starting a business, doing your own thing, and chasing your own dreams. But as the old saying goes, it takes money to make money. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Christian J. DePaz and what he does. He gets funding for new and startup businesses. Christian, tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you so much, bro, for the opportunity to come inside your podcast and help more entrepreneurs start their own business or scale their current businesses. So what we do here at Secure Funding is that we'll help you acquire anywhere between $50,000 to $150,000 at 0% interest rate business credit, so that you can once again start or scale your current business. So if you come hear from our good friend Nelson, there's not only you're coming from them, we'll have them at the podcast and we'll take extra good care of you. With that being said, brother, thank you so much for bringing us on.
Of course, of course. What are you waiting for, guys? Click the link in the bio. Man, you know, it's crazy. People, like, it wasn't until I really had to take on podcasting that I understood how much work goes into this.
It's a lot.
For me, you met me when I used to just rent a studio. I'd walk in, they'd record everything for me, they'd color grade my video, they'd hand it to me, and I'd be done. I'd have to worry about the clips and stuff, but, you know, the bulk of it was done. Now that I'm kind of like, you know, executive over here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the director, I'm the set director, I'm the producer, I'm the editor. I didn't understand how much work really went into this 360.
Yeah.
And it's a lot, man. But it makes you appreciate it. You know?
It's worth it.
Yeah.
Because then when you step into a bigger opportunity and it's there and they have all the lights set up and you're in an actual studio for like a really high grade studio,
you appreciate
you can
everybody.
contribute. You're not just some like, you know, editor guy that's walking in. You can look at the lighting, you can look at the cameras and the backdrop and be like, oh, this set design's pretty cool. And what I love about the podcasting journey is that it's really is show business, man.
Yep.
Like
100%.
we got here, I rolled up, we were a couple minutes late on the show time. I was just like, boom, let's run it. I felt like I was walking into Fox, you know.
Fox News.
And then you're ready for that. You're ready for the Fox appearances and the, you know, all those big deals.
All that stuff, yeah.
All those big deals. But yeah, media's changing, media's growing. I did have one story that I wanted to share.
Shoot.
That I was talking to you about. So it's my Anthony Weiner story.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Here we go.
So the episode on Valuetainment, I don't think I've ever shared this, but
the episode where he went and
the episode with Valuetainment where he went on the show, that was actually me that set that up.
No way.
And so I think maybe the booker or whatever ended up getting the credit for like doing the final like little just outreach that ended up getting him on the show. But I never even told Pat this, so hopefully he sees it. But so I took cold calls for the Valuetainment community, and we talked to people all around the world, like different random people that I was supposed to sell them on the Vault conference to get them there. And I got on the phone with this guy, and sometimes people would be like, oh, I want to be on Pat's show. But I would say 50% of the calls would be, can I be on the podcast? I'm like, dude, do you know the kind of people that Pat has on his podcast? Like, you're not going to get on the show, bro. I know you got a great story, but you're not going to get on the show.
Yeah.
So this one dude, when I told him that, says, no, you don't understand. I'm childhood friends with Anthony Weiner.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, wait. What? And most of the people that worked there at the time, they wouldn't have even known who Anthony Weiner was. But I'm such a media guy, and I know politics, and I know all this stuff. So I was like, wait, Anthony Weiner? Like, you think you could really get him on the show? Like, how would that even work? He would go on with Pat, and he's like, yeah, he's got this new talk radio show in New York. And I'm like, Anthony Weiner has a talk radio show in New York? He's like, yeah, he's kind of a Republican. He like shares conservative values on his show.
What?
And I'm like,
bro, get out of here.
Like on the radio. Like you're driving down the street, and I'm like, how does that even work, dude? Didn't that thing just happen with his laptop like the other week? Like, what happened? How did this happen? And so
funny.
he's like, no, I'm childhood friends with him. Went to school with him. I think I could get him on the show. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I did this like 6-month process. I did all these like 6-month run follow-up processes, which you need to do in media. It's all these conversations that you have over and over and over to try to like inch the media deal to conclusion.
Fortune is a follow, bro.
To get him on the show. And we ended up having a call, and he had reached out. And what I think happened there was that the way I had it in my head as far as the strategy of actually getting him on for Pat to have this crazy discussion. I mean, that episode was like...
Was wild.
Was one of the wildest shows that they ever did in Valuetainment. I heard Pat one time on his podcast after I left talk about how that was one of his favorite episodes because it was just so crazy what went down, dude. It was so crazy. The strategy in my head was, okay, so you have to think about media bookings. It's like, what's in it for both people? Why would Anthony want to go on the show? Oh, that makes sense. He's going on a media run to talk about his new show. So he might not even look into it. He might just go on the show. And dude, that's what fucking happened, bro. I don't think he said that he watched a first episode of Valuetainment on the plane ride there.
No way.
He walked into a murder scene, bro. He walked into a full panel of conservative media people that he had no idea.
Funny, bro.
And went on the show, and then you saw what happened. They had the whole, like, the beginning of the episode. He was so weird. He was like, oh, what is this? Like, what is this whole thing?
Yeah, and then bro, it was pretty wild.
And then Pat just went at him. I love that episode. But yeah, I wanted to share with you that story because I thought that was pretty wild.
That's wild.
I was talking to like his childhood, and that's like how it happens, bro. You get to know people, you befriend them, you have conversations with them, and you make this media stuff happen, bro. We're gonna get some really big people booked on this show and on all the shows in the future just through relationships. It's all relationships.
100%, bro. I've learned from the year that I've known you. Something I admire about you, bro, is that you're a master networker, dude.
Thanks, man. Appreciate
Your networking skills are on point.
Yeah.
And you know everybody, bro. That like I've rarely ran into somebody that is like in the industry or doing their thing and they're like, Don, yeah, you know, oh, Donnie, yeah, that's my boy.
It's not about knowing everybody. It's that everybody needs to know you.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody needs to, like, where I wear funny shirts like this, like people, you need to do something that hits them. Right. There's something that makes them remember you in some way. That's why I wear this hat all the time. I get in there and people remember me. And if they remember you, then when that conversation comes up, they know your name. So your network isn't effective if you're just this guy that goes to all these events and you don't present yourself well, you don't speak well, you don't get ready for the event, you don't have a plan of action. Like when I go to, if I ever go to space, okay, they just opened up again, so I might go there. But even when I go there, I have an executive plan of anywhere I go, I try to meet the guy in charge. Who is the guy that is the manager of the DJ? Who is somewhere up in the booth, and how do I get to that guy? How do I talk to him about LinkMe? How do I build a relationship? How do I get his number? Like, how do I get in touch with this guy so I can build that relationship to then know everybody that he knows and have everybody that he knows know me? So you do that over and over and over and over again. And it really is like a business development masterclass. Just like, how have I learned to know so many people in such a way? And I got a lot of that training at Valuetainment. It's always been me. I've always been a show business guy. I always acted. I always sang. But like that next little business tweak, like how do you get people to remember you and then move in on the business? You need to get their phone number. You need to make sure that you get their contact information, their email, send some sort of little follow-up afterward, like nice to meet you. There's a system to it. To know everybody, there's a system.
For me, more than anything, I don't even bring up my own intentions with the person. I just figure out how to help them.
Yeah.
And I actually do it. One thing is for you, oh, yeah. I know a bunch of people who could use your service. And then you just never call the person ever again. I look for a way to really help that person and something memorable, right? Like a little detail where, you meet a young lady who owns a coffee shop and she tells you about, she's been running out of this specific kind of coffee bean and she's having, and then, on her birthday, since I'm Cuban and she really likes Cuban coffee and she's been having trouble getting a specific brand, I mail her this little brand of Cuban coffee that she's been looking for. Like things like that. Like you got to just make people know that you were aware and paying attention to them in the conversation you had with them and that you genuinely want to do something nice for them and help them. And by default, if you do that enough times, you're going to get the results in your own business or whatever your agenda is, because there's only so many times you can do that for other people before other people do that for you.
And you need to actively listen.
100%.
So Ed Milet has a really good segment on active listening. And it's in his belief that if you're in a conversation with somebody, in a sale or just a basic conversation, if you're the one that talks more, you lost that conversation.
150%.
And you need to take note and remember. And I think the person that originally trained me on this was actually my mom, ironically, because she was like a top saleswoman in pharmaceutical sales. She was that girl that was just crushing it, and her biggest sale was like $4 million. So I guess I'm still competing with her on that. She sold this hospital $4 million sale, and the way that she did it was she remembered what everybody's favorite 2J's order was, and she would remember what cake they liked. And so every doctor she walked into the hospital, she just remembered what their favorite cake was. And so they would try to have her not come in as the rep, and she'd be like, "But I have your double chocolate 2J's cake." And then the doctor would be like, "Well, you have a 2J's cake for me. Hey, come on in. What are you doing? Hey, come on in." And she closed everybody that way. And that was actively listening, just remembering what people like. Like at Valuetainment, I learned to really remember what people liked, and I tried to work that into the narrative of the sale. And you have a dog. Like
something I love that Pat does is he always gets the person a super over the top gift.
Yeah.
That is like specific for them, and only they would like when he was on that second time he was on Joe Rogan, he got Joe Rogan that memorabilia of like an actual something from I forgot, but it was like a JFK related thing.
Yeah.
And he got him like these 3 gifts that he knew that only Joe Rogan would like. I like that about him, and it shows that he actively knows about this person.
Yeah.
He knows this person is into this thing, and like the thing with Tom Brady, that giant painting he got him.
So there's a book on that he had us read as one of the books of the month, and it's like I think it's called like The Art of Giving. I might have that wrong, but it talks about how this guy's he's a master networker, master gift giver. Like this is how he's built his business. So when he goes to give a gift, you want to give a gift that's not in an industry or in a particular gift like category where the competition to give the best of class is too high. So for example, getting somebody a watch is not the best gift to give because you don't know if they have a $200,000 Rolex sitting at home. So you give them a watch and maybe, okay, well, they might not ever put it on. So what he likes to give is knife sets, embroidered knife sets.
Interesting.
And the reason why that he does that is because you're buying real estate in their home or their office.
I like the psychology
so
behind that.
Painting, like one of the gifts that I arranged for Pat to get, and this was a really cool gift. I didn't actually get to give him to him myself. It was a huge regret that I had because somebody else gave him the gift. They saw it in the office and delivered it to him without me being there. I was so fucking mad, dude. I had arranged for this guy in Dubai to fly him out a painting of himself.
Wow.
An oil painting of himself. And it was a $100,000 painting. And the guy hit me up on LinkedIn, and I was like, oh, this is a cool idea. I'm going to let this one through. I'm not going to try to sell him a vault ticket. I'm just going to try to get this painting to Pat. So we talked about for 2 or 3 months about arranging this painting to come to the office. I gave him the address and all this stuff. And then actually a good friend of mine now who works for the NFL, he's a top NFL producer. He produces for the NFL in Vegas. He was the guy that delivered the painting on behalf of the other guy to get it to Pat.
Florida.
So I got to meet him. He was an NFL producer, and we got to talk. And then that painting is supposed to be up on the wall. And you know where that painting sits today? In the cigar lounge.
That's awesome.
Real estate, baby. Real estate.
I love it.
Gift giving real estate.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a really, really good lesson for you guys out there.
Yeah.
Make sure you write that down.
Just give something that's going to be in it. So every time that they see it, they think of you.
Yep.
Every time.
Love that, man.
Yeah.
My brother, it was good having you on.
Yo. Heck yeah, man.
This is a great episode.
Episode 2, bro. Episode 2.
Episode
Season 5.
111.
Episode 111, episode 2 of me, season 5, Montana Method, with your host, Nelson.
That's a good number.
Yeah, it's good. 111.
My brother, you know how I end it, so.
Yeah.
3 questions. What inspires you?
What inspires me? Ultimate success.
Okay. Unravel that.
That like people like Elon, people like Bezos, these guys who have figured it out to the point where they're going to be trillionaires. That's where I want to get. Or even if you shoot for that, even if you get 50% there, you're still a billionaire. You're still a 500 billionaire. Just shoot for the top.
That's success on a level that the average person can't fathom in their mind. Like, they've made so much money that they have more money than some, like, countries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what it is to be personally worth $250 billion?
It's the mindset.
It's pretty wild.
It's their mindset. They were around the right people that put that mindset in them. And that's one of the things that my parents instilled in me. They always thought I was the best. And when you're around your kids, you need to treat them like they are the best thing ever. You're going to be the biggest. You're going to be the best. And try to give them the tools to do it. Because if you don't give them the tools to do it, it's kind of messed up. But they gave me enough, so.
Second question.
Yeah.
What's next for you?
I absolutely 100% will be that guy in every room at the UFC, next to Dana, next to Kyle from Nelk. I'm going to be that dude. And if you need to, meet any of these people, come give me a call. I want to be that guy. Long term, I want to be that.
He's not exaggerating at all.
The Don at the back of the restaurant where people are coming into my restaurant that I bought just to have a community. And they're walking in, and they see the door open. I'm like in the back lounge, and they walk up and they go, sir, we have a little bit of a problem. What's your problem? Well, we're trying to build our business, and we don't know exactly how to do it. And we had a couple of things happen. What do you need? Okay, great. Let me make a couple of calls, and we'll get it arranged.
All right, this guy named Peter, he might show up with his cousin Michael. I don't know. I don't know who's gonna show up.
I don't know who's gonna show up. Somebody's gonna show up.
One of them is gonna take care of you. Don't be scared. The big guys probably like dressed. They dress in black normally, black suit.
You need an actress? Okay. I've been friends with this very famous actress for about 10 years. I'm gonna call her. She's gonna be the front person of your brand now. You're gonna do $100 million. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna make a call.
You don't know me, nothing. Just when I call,
just
answer the phone.
Just come, come to my restaurant and eat some pizza.
I got Tony. Excuse me.
Have the meatballs.
Tony's bringing in the food. Excuse me.
Have the meatballs. They're good.
Bro, there used to be the best.
They're my wife's recipe. She's Italian.
I got so disappointed when this restaurant in Miami closed down. It was called Rondazzo's.
Yeah.
The best Italian food in Miami.
If I'm lucky enough to have an Italian wife, that would be great.
Bro.
If I'm lucky enough.
I'm very like, I love Hispanic women and Spanish speaking women and Spanish culture.
I do too.
I want a Cuban wife, but if I ever did not marry a Spanish woman, I would want to marry an Italian woman.
Well, I mean, they're pretty great, and I'm Latinas. They're the best. We're in Miami, so we're in a good market.
You gotta say nothing else,
But I just being part Italian, having that Italian wife walk in and be like, "Hey, I made you meatballs," and you're like, "Thank you, honey. You need anything? You need a new car? Okay, you make those meatballs really good. I'm gonna get you a new car." You want to do some business together? Do you have a new business idea? Let's make it happen.
It's crazy how much Italians and Cubans have in common.
There's so much in common. It's really Italian and Spanish culture, very warm.
Yeah.
Like when I was in Medellin for a while, the culture was so warm, man. The culture was so warm.
I love that.
And that's how I grew up, warm culture in Boca Raton.
Question number 3, how do you want to be remembered?
These are big pondering questions. I want to be remembered as the Don.
The Don.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to really give back. Eventually, I want to be that old dude that's got a large family, have multiple properties, and just be a giving guy. Like kind of like Ross a little bit, just a very giving guy, cool guy, lots of stories, lots to give back to the next generation, and I just want the best for everybody, man. I don't want anything I say to be taken the wrong way. I really want the best for everybody. I think I got a good idea as to what's going on here. Hey, what's going on here? I think I got a good idea as to what's going on.
Let's go take care of that for you.
And I want women to be happy. I want men to be happy. I want that border closed. as of right now.
Whole another podcast.
Yeah, a whole nother podcast on that. But I want our country to be safe. And I think Tucker Carlson said it best. You know, I'm born here. I'm never going to leave here. And America is where I'm set up. And I like how he says that because he's a true patriot.
I love that.
And my family's been here since 1650 on my mom's side.
Wow.
I'm applying to an organization in Washington, D.C. that I'm about to get verified for in October called the Sons of the American Revolution.
I love that, man.
Which means that 4 of my family members fought in the Revolutionary War.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. You have really cool heritage on both sides of your family.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool line. I'm happy that my mom and dad met at a bar in Fort Lauderdale on a rooftop.
To have a half Italian, half
English, like English, Welsh, and German on my mom's side, but it's very.
But you're American as it gets. You fought against, your ancestors fought against the British.
Yeah, on my mom's side, it's very English. It's very Americana, like all the way since the beginning. And my whole family on that side was just like they owned a lot of land in Kentucky and Ohio. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, they're good people. So,
my brother, always good to have you on.
Let's go,
We'll
dog.
have a part 3.
Okay, cool.
Alrighty, guys. Another episode of the Montana Method Podcast with special guest Don Cappy. You just call him up. He'll take care of
Just
that
give
for
me
you.
a call. Take care of you.
You know, that's how we roll down here.
That's how we roll in Miami,
in Pompano,
in Vegas,
in Boca.
L.A.
You know, Paulie Walnuts had a restaurant in Pompano. It's pretty cool.
No.
Yeah. That's a whole thing. Yeah, Pompano is a big Italian area.
We should go grab dinner at what's that restaurant in Fort Lauderdale? Casa d'Angelo.
Oh, Casa d'Angelo.
We should get the back room.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, we should get the back room and have a conversation.
Alrighty, guys. Push it to the limit. The world is yours. If you're not chasing a dream, life is meaningless, guys. Catch you on the next one. Say goodnight to the bad guy.
Peace.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. I promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches.